Hello YouTubers, Ergonomics fan here with another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the Emerson CQC-7 BT. That means for, well, BW, so B is Tonto, waved, BT is black coating, black coating. Here we go. Right off the bat, for those of you who will collect knives, or especially know tactical knives, or just knives in general, are familiar, we're going to be familiar with the CQC-7 model. It's one of the earlier tactical knife folding designs, so it's kind of iconic in that regard. It's derived from Emerson's CQC-6 model, which is one of definitely the most iconic tactical designs. It's pretty much right up there with the Bob Churchill Advanced Combat Tactical Folder, I think, ACTF. I get his acronyms mixed up, but those two knives are probably the two most popular tactical, iconic tactical knives you can get. So the 7 was originally produced for Benchmade when Benchmade wanted to do a production knife back in the early 90s, but Emerson didn't really want to license out the 6. He felt that would undermine the value of the 6 design, so he designed this. Some differences will be obviously a slightly different shaped handle, which has a bit more of a belly, a bit more of a bulge here, and a hook back there, and a slightly pointier Tonto. So, obviously the Tonto having a secondary bevel. It's a little different, the shape's a little different, but you're going to find a lot of people in the market pimp these later to have a handle similar to the CQC-6 due to the preference, and they want to have something close to the CQC-6. This is stock. So let's get some specs out of the way. This is a 2011 production Tonto black coated, 8 inches overall, 3.3 inch blade, and the handle is the rest of it. The construction of Emerson's is the same as always. It's black G10, stainless steel pocket clip, right side tip up only. You've got a G10 backspacer. You've got his really nice hardware. I like the hardware he uses, the flathead screwdriver and the Phillips. We've got a titanium liner lock with a 300 series stainless liner on the opposite side. 154 cm blade, Rockwell tested around 57 to 59. The Tonto being obviously a pointy Tonto knife with a chisel grind, so the grind is only on the left side. Unlike some other knives, like let's say the Mini Commander, where the grind is on both sides, but the edge is only on the left side. He never does a V grind. So let's, I guess, go into preferences. Now, Dwayne Dwyer said there's 3 things that make a knife work that are mathematically proven: your materials, your exploitation of your materials, and your geometry. There's a lot of truth to that. But he said also there are other factors that you can't measure, and these are things like ergonomics, etc. You can't measure those to be a good knife. So on paper, and even when you look at this knife and you hold it, this is a very well made knife. Fit and finish of this is better than most of my Emersons. It's better than my Mini A100 and my Horseman, I feel. The liner lock is solid. The overall build quality, yeah, the finish, he doesn't finish his liners, but the fit of this knife is actually quite good. I'm very impressed with it. I've disassembled it, put it back together with no difficulty. The fit is good. The build is good. I have experience with Emerson's 154 cm. It sharpens up easy, holds a good edge. I have no complaints about it. So the exploitation on the materials are pretty straightforward and good. Tried and true Emerson stuff. Geometry, it'll work for obviously certain tasks. It's, let's look at the blade actually. Since it is a Tonto point, and it definitely does have a swoop down, it'll pierce into things very easily. The chisel grind has its fans. I am not a massive fan of the chisel grind. That's personal preference. At least not with a secondary bevel. It is sharp though, don't get me wrong. It does cut. And it is actually quite sharp. At both the tip, or I cock it up now, but it is actually quite sharp, actually very sharp to be honest. It'll slice newspaper easily. So it does get very sharp. It's easy to touch up because you just touch up the micro bevel, but it For what my cutting needs are, it definitely does cut a bit more asymmetrically than even, let's say, the chisel edge. And I guess aesthetics come into play, and aesthetics are not something that, those are subjective, so let's keep that in mind. I don't have a ton of use for Tonto blades from my EDC, but this is an iconic Tonto blade, and those who do love them usually are quite a fan of, usually, not always, are quite a fan of the Emerson CQC-7 design. I do think, though, the lines are very, very aesthetically pleasing on the side. I think I'd much prefer the V-grind Emerson, the one they make, the CQC-7V, over the standard one. But that's personal preference. Not much more to say. You've got your secondary point. It works. It's a really simple design. The handle, alright, I don't want to knock this knife, but it's not my favorite handle. I've got 4 Emersons, and I kind of prefer the ergonomics of all of those Emersons more, hence why I carry them more. I like the curvature of the Mini Commander, and the Horseman, where it just locks into your hand. It's got the balance point right there, the finger choil. The Horseman does the exact same thing. And especially the Horseman, it really locks my hand in. So, I mean, ergonomics, I just find that to be much more appealing. And if I want something straighter, I've got the Emerson Mini A100, which, to be honest, you can't really get much more straight handle than that. So, I find that to be much more comfortable. This one, not so much. It's not bad, it's not uncomfortable, but when you have 3 other options, they kind of just take preference. So I'm not too crazy about the thickness, the width of this handle. I'm not too crazy about the clip. I think they definitely made it thicker, and they left the G10 thicker on this particular model and this particular run, I think, than they usually do. You can see the gap between the screws and the actual G10. They're definitely could have milled down this side a bit more, the liner side, and I think it would have been a bit more comfortable. But it's not a deal breaker per se, but it's not my preference. That's more personal preference. It's not really measurable, so take it for what it's worth. The action's really smooth actually. Pops right out. I love it. Easy to clean, easy to disassemble. All the major benefits of an Emerson knife. If you like Emerson knives, you probably like this. It's got the wave, which is, I think, much better on this model than my Horseman. I think it's more aggressive, so it catches on my pants easier and it just flies right out and ready to go. So, definitely a very fast and effective way to deploy your knife. Overall, it's a good knife. I don't carry it much, so I'm just letting it go to my friend, selling it to a buddy, because I mean, I just bought this blade, and this blade wasn't cheap, so you know, to kind of balance the books out, I was kind of letting go of knives I don't carry much. Still, however, if you're into tactical knives, you're into collecting tactical knives, definitely keep an eye out on the 7. I think the Mini 7 fits me better, but the design of the 7 is without a doubt very iconic, and it's not that I don't like all chisel Tontos. The CQC-5 and the CQC-6, the way they fit into my hand feels so good, and the 5 is actually my what would you call it? My grail knife. So who knows, maybe one day I'll get that. But for now, if this is a knife that interests you, definitely check it out. It's iconic, and I think you'll like it. Peace out. Have a good one. See you later.